I'm Nicole Watt, the Pixel Maven at Pixel Maven's Retreat, and welcome to another project tutorial. This project was inspired by another project that I saw out on Concord and 9th, and what I did was create a sketch from it that I could use to create all sorts of other projects. So let's take a quick look at that sketch, and let's take a look at the inspiration project that it came from. And now we'll come back to the project we'll be working on today. So you can see how the background and the way that the elements are positioned really fits into that sketch. So that's a version of casing, and basically what it is that I found something that I thought was really cool, and I thought that there were some really neat elements that I could pull from it, and in this case I pulled the design elements and how they were positioned on the card. And so I created a sketch from that, and now I can use that sketch to create other projects in the future. But today we'll be working on this one, so let's get started. Alright, so the first step is to create the background, and I'm using a piece of spicy yogurt from Ulta New, and I love it because it's got some green in it, and it's a really nice shade of off-white that looks really natural and will go really great with all of the colors that I'm using today. So I'm using Concord and 9th's faceted turnabout stencil. And in order to use this, I find it best to use their turnabout jig because I already have the piece cut down to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And there's these little notches on the jig itself that tell me exactly where this piece is going to go. So I'm just going to use some temporary adhesive. This is just like a Dotto temporary adhesive. I just need a couple little strips on the back. And I'm going to go ahead and put it in on the jig here. And what that's going to do for me is allow these two pieces to sit together, and then when I flip it around it'll be really easy to position it in the right place and I won't have any guesswork. So I just lay these two down, and I'm going to use some repositionable tape. This is just some 3M post-it tape. And see, now these have something to hold on to, and I don't have to put it on anywhere where the paper is, so that way I can do all of my stenciling and not have to worry about moving the tape. See, it's all stuck together now. And I'm using some Ulta New colors. This is Morning Frost and Evening Gray. Now I'm only going to use the Turnabout twice, which is the nice thing about Turnabouts. So I'm just inking this up here with my Ulta New scrapbook.com stencil brush. And I'm just going to get some of this light color on here, and it's probably going to look like nothing is going on, but I promise you I am getting ink in here and it's changing colors, and you're going to see these cool little geometric shapes here in just a second. So this time I'm not really trying to get full deep saturated color, I'm just trying to get hints of color so you can see the geometric shapes in the background, but that they're not going to stand out too prominently. Alright, so that's the first color. Morning Frost is lighter than Evening Gray. So now when I pull this off, you'll see that that has shown up on the cardstock. So now I'm just going to flip the cardstock over and put this right back down in the same position, and it's going to cover up the spots that I just stenciled. And normally you would twist this all the way around and go all 4 directions, but I'm just doing 2. There we go. So now all of them are covered up, and I'm going to use Evening Gray for my second color. And just apply this in the same way. So I can use the same brush without cleaning it off because they're from the same color family. This is just a shade darker. I'm not worried about any contamination of color because with the darker shade, of course, it's going to just cover all that up anyway. So I'm sure this time you can see that I am getting some of that gray through. And it's really quick to do this kind of fun custom background. And I find that now that I'm doing more of these, I have less and less need for pattern paper because I spend a little bit more time on a fun colored background that matches my project perfectly, and then add in a few more elements and I'm done. Alright, so that should do it. let's see what we have. And that is just perfect. That's exactly what I was looking for. So now we can move on to the next part of the project. All right, for the next step, I'm going to work on that big medallion piece. And I'm just going to cut out a piece of copper metallic cardstock with one of my infinity circles. And this one is large enough to fit on this piece, but not overlap any of the areas. So it's a really nice size. And then I'm going to emboss it in the Botanical 3D embossing folder. And I'm trying to see if I can get the, you can kind of see the image there. It's really a fun floral pattern. And I love that it's 3D because it gives really extra fun depression. It may crack this a little bit, but that's okay because I'm going to do an antiquing distress to it, and it's going to cover up any of the cracking that might happen from that process. So I'm going to go ahead and run these through the Big Shot, and I'll be back to show you how I antique it. All right, so now that I have that complete, you can see that it makes this really amazing impression, and it looks fantastic on the copper. It's just a really great metallic embellishment right now. So there is some cracking in here, but like I said, I'm going to do some antiquing. So I'm using Scrapbook.com's Hybrid Black. I'm just going to ink it up with a finger dauber here and just swirl around. And so of course those places where it cracked is going to grab that black, and that's perfect because it's going to really pick up that antique-y look. So I can just daub it, and I can swirl it to get it kind of into the crevices. And when I swirl, I do it just a little bit lighter, so that way I'm not picking up all of the black. And it really gives us an even cooler look. It really helps it pop even more than it already does being 3D. And I just love the antique look. I think it gets rid of some of the luster, and when I add it to this project, it just really helps everything come together. All right, so I'm using the hybrid ink because it will actually dry on this cardstock. If you use just a plain dye ink, it's really not going to dry, and you're always going to be able to lift it off with your finger. So there we go. So that's pretty good. And I can use my heat tool to speed up the dry time, or I can just set it aside and let it dry for a few minutes. All right, while I'm waiting for things to dry, I'll go ahead and do the sentiment. So this is another part of the faceted Turnabout stencil, and it has a whole bunch of words on it. So I have some of it masked out. So it says "You're amazing," but I'm just going to use the amazing part, and then I'm going to use "You are" from another stamp set. And I'm just going to put it on this piece of narwhal from Lawn Fawn. And obviously you can see I've already done this because I did it for my sample. And I'm going to use that same black hybrid ink from Scrapbook.com. It gives a nice rich black along with a sponge dauber. And instead of swirling around or anything, I find it best to just dab it like this, because it gets all the ink in there pretty good. And if you swirl, sometimes it gets up underneath the stencil, and we don't want that. Nice crisp letters. All right, so that's pretty good. And I can pull this off. And now I've got my stenciled sentiment. And I'm going to cut that out using the Hello Sunshine Turnabout set. And it comes with a whole bunch of little pieces, one of them being this banner. So that just fits right in here perfect. And I can use some, I have a whole bunch of little pieces of tape here. Oops, there we go. To run that through the Big Shot. All right, so I'm going to finish up my sentiment by using just the UR from the sentiment in Hello Sunshine. It's a cute little teeny tiny stamp. Again, using that same black hybrid ink. And I don't need to be particular about that. Just need to get it on there. And now I can go ahead and snip off the my. Now I want to snip off as much of the guava as I can, so I'm getting as close to the M as I can, like so. Then maybe I need a little snip on this side just to make it even. That'll work. And now I can go ahead and attach that. Just going to use a little bit of Tombow. Like so. And I'm not concerned about going into the A. It just gives it a little bit of interest. So there we go. All right, so now we're down to assembly, and everything is pretty straightforward. So remembering back to the sketch, it's pretty easy to put all of this together. So I'll start with my background panel on a card base. Get that in place. And then this medallion, which as you can see now is completely dry and it's antiqued. It looks so awesome. I just absolutely love that. This just needs adhesive as well. And that will just go down. All right, there we go. So next I need to add some swirls of some linen thread on the back of the sentiment, and that I'm just going to put some of these little foam adhesive pieces, trying to use up lots of old stuff I have laying around. And I think I'm coming to the end of my package of these. There we go. And when I swirl this around, sometimes I just kind of freehand it, and sometimes I do it a little bit more structured. So let me show you how I do it when I'm doing structured. So I just start like this, and then I just kind of bring it around in circles, making sure not to extend too far past the top or bottom. And then I'll bring like another swirl around, like so. And it's important to kind of make it look organic versus planned. So that will do. And this last one, I'm just going to bring it so that way it faces downward and I have a little tail off the end like so. And see how that looks so perfect? Okay. I can just place that right on there. There we go. And then the final thing is to just add some pearls. And these came from my stash too. So I always add these in threes because triangular patterns are appealing to the eye. I'm even going to make it so like this one is kind of tucked underneath. There, that's really cool. All right, so you might notice that on my original one I have this black around the edges. Well, that's because I decided to add some more distressing to the copper piece, and then I oopsed. So I decided, instead of trying to be able to, trying to cover it up, which it wasn't going to do because it was a big piece on the side here, I just added more to it. So if you like the look of that, it's very easy now to just take your sponge dauber, don't add any more black to it, and just add some random sponging to it, or you can just leave it perfectly plain like that. Either way will work. I hope you enjoyed today's project and that it gave you some great ideas on how you can gather inspiration from projects that you might find on the internet. I hope that you join me again for another project tutorial, but until next time, happy crafting!